Pete joined us on the Down to Business podcast today, and we talked about all details surrounding land flipping. So, really taking a property off market, buying it, and then selling it on market. And I can only speak for myself when I say that wasn't the most familiar concept to me, but Pete gave an amazing breakdown of it all. On top of that, he was really able to tell us about, building his team, living in San Diego, California, but not doing an ounce of business in San Diego, California, and really being able to run all his operations from the comfort of his home, from the comfort of his laptop. And I don't know about you, but that's amazing to me. We also got into how not even a full first year in business back in 2021, he was able to do 1.2 million in revenue. Then the following year, 2022, he was able to do 3.5 million in revenue. And now this year, what's the goal? Well, I guess it's only one way to find out. Make sure you tap into this episode. So without further ado, enjoy episode 139, The Love for Land. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Down to Business podcast. Look, we are moving and grooving through the content. I'm loving it. I hope y'all, are enjoying everything just as much as we are too. And look, it's nearly May at this point. We are really, it's 5 months into the year, basically. We are moving. I feel like, we just celebrated New Year. I feel like, I had some birthdays from family at the beginning of the year. It's all really just coming back to back to back. But nonetheless, still making things happen. As I said, for my Philly folks, definitely be on the lookout. I have some news dropping for y'all very, very soon. So look, just stick with us, bear with us. But nonetheless, that's not going to take away from why we're here today. So I'm sitting across from Pete, man. Very excited to be chatting with him, man. He was somebody who I was able to reach out to him. Actually, he reached out to us. And that's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites, one, because it means that Down to Business is doing something right. It means that somehow, some way we came across somebody's docket or in some database or in some pipeline, social media, something. So shout out to us here at the team at Down to Business, but more so really shout out to Pete just for the enthusiasm, just for the video. He sent me the intro, everything, how he broke it down. And y'all can obviously see by the setup, he's the true podcaster here. It's not even really me, so, but I'm very excited to be sitting down with Pete. Very excited because he's even brought a new concept to me, something that I really had to look up, dive into a little bit more, something that I never really heard of personally myself, but I know just the umbrella and everything that is encompassed under. It's a lot of opportunity, a lot of money to be made. And, this could definitely be something that piques your fancy. So I definitely know Pete is going to give y'all some great insights today, and possibly you could be doing some follow-ups with him when it's all said and done. So Pete, how you doing today? How's everything?
I'm doing great, Tamar, and thanks for having me on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. The pleasure is absolutely ours. So look, I know that between this interview, I'm going to have my network tapping in. We're going to have your network tapping in. And I know we're going to have some people, finding out about both of our networks at the same time. So to bring everybody up to speed, to put everybody on the same playing field, can you, one, just tell us a little bit about yourself? And then can you, two, just tell us what brings you on the Down to Business podcast today?
Yeah. Well, first of all, my name's Pete Reese, and I'm out here in sunny San Diego. I think you're in Philly, right?
No, so I'm actually in sunny Tampa, Florida.
Oh,
So
you're
I'm
in Tampa,
used
Florida.
to the weather. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, so I'm down here in California, and what I do is I flip land. So I buy and sell land and do it all from my computer screen, and I don't ever see any of these properties myself. So, and when I say a flip land, these are short-term holds. These are just properties I buy off market, and then we sell them on market, generally with an agent. And sometimes we'll do some minor value add type stuff, but most of the time they're quick holds, 60 to 90 day holds, and we're just in and out quickly.
All right. Now, to y'all, that may have sounded like a very short, sweet, concise, just, explanation. To me, that was loaded. So we're gonna, unpack things little by little. So I will say one of the things that was very foreign to me, and I guess this kind of differs a little bit, but same kind of concept. So being able to buy, sell, flip anything without physically having to be there. I talked to somebody, big shout out to my boy Khalil, when he came on and talked about his involvement with Airbnb and property and everything. And it really blew my mind when he told me, and I talked to a lot of other friends and just saw testimonials of people that they were automating everything from the cleaning team to just getting the apartment itself or the house set up back to its original condition, to getting people in, to set up instructions, to everything. So for me, I was always under the impression, and I feel like maybe at one point in time when this all first started, you may have had to be physically there or just to make sure certain things were on the up and up. But now I feel like you said, you really can have a phone in front of you, you really can have a computer screen in front of you, and so much can happen. So ultimately, how How did this happen? How did you get involved with this? How did you really find out that this was something that really can be done from a computer?
Sure. Well, I've been in real estate. I've been had my real estate broker's license in California here since 2006. So I've been involved in real estate for a long time, but mostly as an agent or a broker, representing clients and doing the traditional real estate side of things. I had done some home flipping and things before I even got my broker's license way back when market crashed here in California and in most places in like 2007, 2008 ish. So I was at that time I was working with banks. I was listing their foreclosure properties and things. So, but I'd gotten out of like investing myself just because that crash was like, oh, I feel like investing myself is a little too risky or whatever. But so anyhow, I'd gotten out of investing myself, and then a number of years back, I was doing a business with my wife, completely unrelated to real estate. But then I got the itch. I was like, hey, I got to get back into real estate investing. I really wanted to get back into it, but I didn't know what exactly to do. And I started reading some stuff online about people that were doing land flipping, and they were talking about buying this property for 10,000 and reselling it for 30,000, and just little anecdotes like that. And then I started kind of going down this rabbit hole and learning everything I could about land flipping. And then that wasn't that long ago. And then in 2020, March of 2021 is when we resold our first land flip property. And then we ended up 2021 doing a little over $1.2 million in revenue that first partial year. And that was about 50% gross profit margin too. So that basically our goal was to buy a property and to double our money on the property. So that's 50% gross profit margin if you can do that. So buy a property for 20,000, sell for 40. That was the goal. So on average, we were able to do that the first year. Second year, 2022, which was our first full year, did about 3.5 million in revenue, and just a little shy of that 50% gross profit margin, but pretty close. And then 2023, I want to end up this year at 10 million. So I think I could do it.
I don't think so. I know you will. So
Well,
I
I'm glad
we'll
you got
definitely be
that.
following up at the end of the year. We'll definitely be talking some goals and things like that, man. That's just amazing. I love to hear that, most definitely. So okay, with what you do, so you wake up like you said, open that computer screen, do what it do. Land flipping itself, when you kind of first, obviously, you've had a host of experience when it came to real estate, just the market, everything of the sort, even what you could dibble and dabble into. Before you specifically took on land flipping and kind of really delve in, like you said, really went down that rabbit hole to figure out what's going on, did you have any reservations? Was it anything that you kind of were thinking to yourself, like, nah, this may be a too good to be true type thing? And is that why the rabbit hole kind of started, where you kind of just all in from the beginning? Did you, were you kind of just on the fence a little bit? What was it really like before you fully stepped foot into what you're doing right now?
That's a good question. From my mindset at the time, I'm kind of an optimistic type person, and maybe I'm too trusting of other people and things that I read and things and stuff like that. But I read that stuff and I believed it, but there was no real verification of that. Like it was just kind of anecdote, people saying stuff in Facebook groups and things. Uh, but the business model made sense to me from what I knew about it. Buying something off market and selling it on market, kind of these, these are not generally high dollar, type multi-million dollar properties or anything. These are, lesser value properties, kind of unwanted things and unused property that's not top of mind for people. So it kind of made sense to me that you could do these type of deals. And the whole model of how it was done made sense to me. Like we generate all of our business with direct mail. And so that all, I knew direct mail works if done right. And I figured, like, I think I could, that business model itself kind of made sense with my personality type. Like I like buying and selling stuff, and I feel like I'm pretty good at identifying value. So it all kind of made sense to me. And then I had to kind of get my wife on board with it as well and get her, kind of letting me give it a shot, buying a few properties and trying it out. And yeah, so once I got all those things lined up, then it just started working, I guess, pretty quickly. Oh.
Oh, as somebody who is very optimistic themselves, I understand. I understand how, sometimes being too trusting can lead you one way versus another. But no, ultimately having that, I think that's a great perspective just to have with anything new, with anything, even, that you're just trying to explore, learn more about, and even find different avenues and different approaches or ways to do it. Okay. So direct mail, that's a very, depending on who you're talking to, that could be an old school approach. To us, I don't even think a lot of people, my brother's generation, everything know where to send mail or know where mailboxes are, the type amount of stamps or everything like that. So why, with everything that you knew, with everything that you were involved in, with the area that you were in, landscape, everything like that, why did you choose that approach? Why direct mail? And why, but also too, I'll even ask the follow up to that, why has it been so successful?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting approach. It's not just simply sending a letter out and saying, "Hey, I want to buy your land." It's Well, first of all, it worked. Why direct mail? Because I saw other people doing it and it was working for them. At least they said it was working for them. So I was like, okay, I can do the same thing. I can make it work for me. But it's a unique spin on it. It's not just sending out a letter saying, "Hey, I want to buy your land." It's actually sending out a specific offer in the mail to these people. And basically what you do, and it's not just random letters that you send out. You actually, get a targeted list of, say in a particular county in a particular state, you're pulling all the people that own vacant land that say 10 acres and above or something like that. And then you're taking the average values for a for an acre in that area. And you're just doing some math and kind of a mail merge situation where you're offering them a price that's kind of an aggressive price, but it's a price that would make sense for us to buy it cash, and then a price that would allow us to then put it on the market and resell it quickly, slightly below retail pricing. So, um, so it's a unique spin on it, and a lot of the property owners are not the younger Gen Zs or anything that don't know anything about the mailbox. These are mostly older people, mostly Gen X and older. So, um,
Gotcha. So if you're listening to this right now, what we were basically just telling you to do is go check your mailbox, because there may be something in there of value to you, or something that you may need to send to be of value to someone else. All right. So now we're still thinking about area, where you are, location, everything like that. San Diego, right?
yep, San Diego.
Do you feel like, well, one, I'll ask this question and then I'll kind of see where I want to go from how you answer. Do you think you would be involved in real estate if you didn't live in San Diego or California just in general?
I think so. It kind of makes sense to me, and it's always appealed to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
the interesting thing about like what we do with the land flipping is I don't really buy any properties out here. I'm buying them all over the country, but nothing really in
okay,
California. So
got you. Okay. Now, with what you know about land flipping, with what you know about kind of the market, everything that's going on right now, is that by design that you stay away from San Diego, that you stay away from California? Is it just because of the opportunity and just because of what you can get in other places if you really, do your due diligence and do the research?
yeah. So the interesting thing about this area is most of the good properties have been developed already. Then kind of the way it works here, the topography of everything. You've got kind of the coastal stuff, and then there starts being some mountain ranges and things just to the east of that. So then you get up into the mountains, and a lot of that land is, it's. I mean, you might be able to do some stuff with it, but it's not definitely not as desirable. And then when you get over in the mountains, it's all like completely desert type stuff, which is completely uninhabited. And I mean, there are some little towns and stuff out there, but just not a lot of activity. So it doesn't really make it too conducive to this because, in a lot of the areas we deal with and on the East Coast and things like that, like there's a lot of like vacant like pieces of land and kind of rural areas around there that have nice properties and things. It's just not like a really super, you know, inhabited area. So it just seems a little more conducive for what we do. So
Understood. Okay, most definitely. Now, when it comes to the specific type of land, properties, anything that you're looking for or looking at, does it range from anything? Are these just homes? Are these corporate buildings? Are these abandoned warehouses? Is this a little bit of everything? Do you focus on one thing specifically, or does it really just depend on where you are
yeah,
naturally?
so there's a lot of different ways to do land investing. The way I do it is I look for mostly rural properties that are 10 acres and above. Some areas I go down to 5 acres, but that's kind of my minimum. And I just look for stuff that's outside of the towns, outside of the cities, larger properties that have either potential for a home site or at least recreational type usage. So that's the kind of stuff I look for, and obviously no structures of any sort on these properties. Just most of the time, I mean, sometimes I end up with properties that maybe have an old abandoned home on it or something like that, but that was not the intent. I'm just pretty much just sending out mail to properties that I think are just vacant land.
Got you. Okay, makes a lot of sense. Now, something that you kind of spoke about in the beginning was now your ROI, the return on investment, kind of what you're doing. You're taking these, you're flipping these, but for you, you want to do that 50%. So if you buy something at 10,000, you want to then flip it to 20,000. So now, to someone hearing that, to someone really not versed in real estate, not versed in land flipping, not versed in really, even when it comes to flipping in general, how do you do that? What really goes all into flipping a property, making it or thinking about what you got it at or bought it for, and then doubling that almost. How do you, so to somebody out there who is a novice to this, how do you turn a $10,000 property into a $20,000 sale for
Yeah,
them?
I mean, one of the things is it's kind of an arbitrage in a way, like, and meaning like you buy it in one market and you sell it in another. So in this case, we're buying it off market. These are properties are not being advertised on the MLS or anything like that. And you take that property and then you list it on the MLS, the retail type market. Now, you can also do some things depending on the property, depending on the situation. You can also do some things to actually increase the value of that property that you buy. Now, these could be simple things like getting some brush cleared, getting the property cleaned up of trash, getting a survey done, getting a perk test done on the property. You could do like a minor lot split where so you get a 100-acre property, you can split it up into 5 20-acre properties and then sell them off individually and get a higher amount for per acre by doing things like that. So there are lots of kind of value add techniques that you can do. Big thing is you got to buy it right. You got to buy it for the right price. And, we're offering cash and we're offering a quick close type situation. And, a lot of these property owners are not really concerned about squeezing every dollar out of the property. They're more looking for the convenience type situation, which is what we can offer. The last thing they want to do, and we've ended up with a lot of these properties, by the way, the last thing they want to do is like list it with the real estate agent and have it sit on the market for a year and not get any offers. And that happens a lot. And then we end up talking to some of these people and they're like, oh, I would have sold it for much less when it was on the market. It's just, I got no offers. And my agent told me this is what I should be listening for. And they just wanted to sell it. They just wanted their cash and they didn't want to keep paying the property taxes or maintain the place, things like that. So there's all types of situations. And, it doesn't work for all situations, but it does work for some.
I got you. I definitely do think that this is something that is very situational. It really depends on, timing, market, what's going on. What you were kind of experiencing back in 2007 and 2008. It's almost like a night and day difference right now. But I even will go a step further to say, okay, so I think about down here. I think about being in Tampa right now. I think about even going back up to Philly recently at the beginning of the year and just hearing what some of the houses in the area that I grew up with, what they're costing now, or just what land in general is costing, or just the market. I just keep hearing people say, wow, like I'm not trying to buy right now. I'm waiting on the market. It's going down. We're going to figure something out. It's just way too high. So with all of that going on, with the real estate just being in there, I feel like it's just a frenzy right now. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody's trying to be in the know, figure out what's going on, and be that one step ahead. How do you continue to remain successful throughout a pandemic, throughout market rates and just things that are out of your control? How do you continue? Because like you said, in the 2 years that you already described, you've had great years, you've had marvelous years, and you're on track to have yet again another record-breaking, mind-blowing year. How do all of these trials and tribulations, how do all of these, sometimes these rocky roads, these obstacles, how do you continue to remain successful and adamant about what it is that you
Well,
do?
with real estate, with change comes opportunity, and with turmoil comes opportunity. And especially if you have a business model where you've got short-term hold situations like what we do, it allows you to adapt pretty quickly. And as long as you've got your kind of pulse on the market, it allows you to kind of react accordingly. Now, for us, our it's remained really steady, and a lot of people have talked about, hey, we're going to go into a recession and all this stuff. And with a lot of these areas that I deal in, haven't seen that at all. Not to say it's not coming. It's just that so far I really haven't seen that type of data or those type of signals. But the minute I do, we'll just adjust our buy prices accordingly. So we'll just have to buy for a more aggressive price because we'll have to sell for a lesser price on the back end. And yeah, so we're just keep our pulse on things, and I'm not going to overreact to things that I don't see actual confirmation or data on. And the other thing is we're building an actual business. No matter what the market does, we can adapt and we can make money. Like I had mentioned earlier, the when the market crashed, I had kind of shifted gears and was like, okay, I'm going to focus on being a listing broker for bank owned properties, REO listing broker. And the crazy thing about that time, that was the worst real estate market crash ever, like craziness. And even in that time, I would list a property for these banks, put it on the market, and I'd get like 30 offers in 3 days, cash offers. So there was activity, there was a ton of activity. It was just the pricing had reset. So it's not like these weren't, you know, these weren't like premium properties or anything kind of special about them. They were just regular suburban type homes that maybe were built during the heyday, and then it was just a supply and demand issue. And the banks knew that they had to price things aggressively, and then they would sell them. So as long as you can, that kind of taught me the fact that, like, okay, it's not like the investors drop out in those areas. It's not like things don't buy and sell. It's just a matter of the price. So as long as you keep an eye on that price and buy more aggressively in this down type markets, I think we'll be fine.
Money talks, most definitely. So I definitely do hear a lot of due diligence being done here. Just research, and like a very important thing that you said is just you're not just reacting off of things that you hear or things that you read or things. You're reacting behind things that have facts, things that have confirmation, things that have even already happened. I feel like that would save a lot of us a lot of just stress or a lot of just worry free if we just focused on what's actually happening, what's actually going on, what's actually already happened, and not trying to, like we said, sometimes I feel like we try to get too ahead of ourselves, and you're all the way in front of something and it has yet to happen, and it may not even ever happen, but you built the foundation or set yourself up for this worst case scenario, and sometimes it never plays out or comes to fruition. So a lot of what I've heard you talk about here today, and even you touched on in the very beginning, is short term. So am I safe to make the assumption that there's a short term and that there's a long term when it comes to land
Yeah,
flipping?
exactly. Yeah,
So what?
yeah,
Okay. So now you said short term is 30
yeah,
to
yeah.
90 days.
For the most part, our average hold time is it's been averaging about 75 days this year. So in all the deals that we've done,
Okay.
and that takes into account some really quick properties. Quickest we've sold, quickest close date or hold time has been 11 days. I think that's been my quickest one, and that includes a resale escrow time period and everything like that. But and then the longest been about a year. But and those have been situations where I overpaid for a property, or didn't reduce it quick enough, or it fell out of contract a few times. Things like that happen. But so as an average, though, it's about 75 days so far this year. So, but as far as
Okay.
there are long term strategies with land investing as well, and I do have certain properties that are more development type properties where they can be more long term projects, or properties that I'm kind of holding out for larger properties. I'm kind of holding out for top dollar or closer to top dollar, I guess you could say, and those would be more long term holds. So you can do a number of different things in this business. You can kind of take it in any direction you want. You could be a developer of raw land and get it everything approved on paper, and then flip it to a developer, who's actually going to build the homes and do that stuff. Or I think there's going to be a big need for, or a big space for, people in the renewable energy space, getting a property, going through the steps to getting a property approved for, say, a solar farm or a wind farm. And then once you get those approvals done, then you can flip it to a company that's actually going to build it out, and then be essentially a power company of themselves generating that electricity. So
I'm not gonna lie, it's really been amazing to see the evolution of solar. I come from up north, so that's a very foreign concept to us up north, especially in like a row home style setup. You're not putting solar panels on row homes, but I will say, growing up, that just wasn't something that occasionally we see the wind, and you knew you were in a rural area or just somewhere, outside of the city. But really coming down to Florida back in 2020, working for Amazon originally, delivering to a lot of these houses, I was like, wow, every house out here has solar panels on it. I work now with a company where we house a lot of different companies. So with WeWork, we house a lot of different smaller businesses, bigger businesses, everything. And the people for solar, they're in here. You got the solar company over here. You got people selling it here. You got people doing consultations here. You see the logo here. So it's crazy just to see really how much this is moving. And I talk to a lot of them, and I really just get their gauge and really just ask them, about the market, or what's going on and what's happened. They're like, yo, like, this will be something where it used to not seem so common, or it used to not be a thing where everybody was kind of jumping on it, but pretty soon it'll be something where everybody, it can be almost a benefit to everyone, and it just makes life that much easier. So I hear you talk a lot about us. And I know, obviously, in order to have these great, tremendous, record breaking years, you have to have a hell of a team behind you. You have to have people who also know what they're doing, knowledge and expertise and everything like that. So, for you specifically, for what you do, for what the company has going on, what are some of the roles and operations for what people are doing behind the scenes for the people who are not on this interview, just so they can kind of get an idea of, it's not all just what it looks like. It's not all us just finding the stuff, dropping cash, and that's easy. Like you said, some things could be 11 days, some could be 75, some could be 365 or 366, depending on that year. So what are some of like the roles and responsibilities of those around you who really help to make this thing as
Yeah,
successful as
yeah.
it
I mean,
is?
I wish I could do it all myself, but I'm definitely not that good. And actually, my goal would be to actually kind of get myself out of the business as much as possible so I could just worry about the vision of it. But the thing is, I started out just me, and then I had pretty soon I had an assistant kind of helping me with doing some of the, you know, administrative type things that I didn't want to do anymore, or I wasn't good at, and, some things along those lines. But kind of it's really evolved over the years. I've just been kind of taking certain jobs, things that I didn't want to do any longer or didn't have any time to do any longer, and I would hire someone to kind of take over that sort of aspect of things. So right now, I mean, first of all, we've got a call center that handles all the calls 24/7. So they're not part of my team, but it's a service that we contract with. So they're kind of like the first call as far as the lead. Um, Replies go. But then I've got a due diligence and lead manager basically enters in all the leads into the CRM that we've got. And then I've got a head of acquisitions. He started off as a property analyst. So basically, he's taking a look at all these properties that come in and is evaluating, like, is this a good property? Is this a property we want to move forward with? And if so, what price makes sense for us in order to actually purchase this property? He also then, after we get a property under contract, he then also reviews all of our due diligence and all of our research on the property before we actually close and send the money to purchase the property. Um, then I've got a couple of acquisition managers, and their jobs are to basically communicate with all the property owners that either call in, text in, email in, all those things. So their job is communicate with them, give refined offers to them if we need to adjust our offers and let them know why. But their job kind of ends when they get a signed purchase agreement. So then we start ordering all this due diligence and reports on a property, getting a photographer out there, things like that. I've got another person on my team that does the transaction management. She is responsible for handling all the paperwork and all the communication with the title companies, the escrow companies, attorneys, on both the buy side and then the resale side. I've got another person on my team, which is the asset manager, and her job is to kind of coordinate any of the minor value add type things that we might do to these properties, like a survey, brush clearing, things like that. And then also handle any of the property listings after we buy a property. We list properties with real estate agents, but it's still a big job in itself to kind of stay on top of all those, stay on top of price reductions, and communicate with those listing agents. And I've got an assistant, an executive assistant that kind of helps me move forward with lots of different projects, and also helps me keep my team organized. And yeah, so and then I've got a couple of other people on the team to do other. I've got someone that does list building for us and kind of helps put the list together and everything. And that's kind of a big job when you're sending out as much mail as we're doing. And then I've got another team member that also just does some other miscellaneous administrative type tasks that we do. So
Yeah, so I'm hearing that it takes a lot to do with what you do, man, and it really takes a lot, like you said, to really get to ultimately your vision and what you want to do for the company, and really being able to take that step back. So, but no, I really asked that question because a lot of times I love to do that deep dive with everyone who I talk to, just about at face value, from somebody going to the website, somebody seeing the video, somebody getting a piece of mail, somebody even listening to this interview, they'll hear a lot. They'll hear the success. They'll hear what you do. They'll hear just the ease at how you speak about it, because you've been in it. You're winning it. You're making it happen. But you've also, the same way you've made mistakes, you've learned along the way, just the same, and you've had a lot of success doing the same. And I feel like a lot of times we only see what's at face value. We only see what's on the surface. So sometimes we really have to get deeper into that iceberg just to see how much it takes, how many assistants, who has to do this, how you have automated here, how you have people handling this, and how it's still work to be done, and still the wheels are always turning, to really get it to where it's at. So no, I thank you for that. I really do think that what you're doing is, like I said, for me, it opened up a totally different world for me, because we hear about the flips and we hear about different things like that, but once I saw the numbers and once I really saw what you were doing, and once I heard computer screen, that's where you had me. I was just like, well,
oh
wow, I don't have to leave, I don't have to go anywhere. Everybody's in this big remote and hybrid phase now, so that's really, you're talking our language essentially. But all right, so you spoke about the vision and ultimately how you want to continue to build this team, continue to lay this foundation, to ultimately you can take a step away and you can really see the vision that you have for the company and see it continue to build and flourish. So what does ultimately that vision look like for you? If you could, let's just say, if you could have this your way, if you could wake up and ultimately dictate the next steps, or even think about the trajectory, whether it be a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, however you're thinking, what does that look like for the land flipping, for what you're doing now, and what does that look like for where it's going to go? Because we spoke about numbers, we spoke about the 2 years you had already, we spoke about the year that you're about to have, because we're speaking it into existence. It's going to happen. So ultimately, your vision,
yeah, well,
what is
I'd
that?
love to be the largest off-market land buyer in the United States, and I don't see why it can't happen. There's no real dominant player in there now, and I think that going on the path that we're going, I could see it happen. There's a lot of land in the United States, and there's a lot of opportunity for that, and so I think that space is for us to occupy.
Okay. Well, look, like I said, we're marking this. This is about the 31-minute, 32-minute mark. We're gonna mark this, y'all. We're gonna This is gonna happen. I don't know when we're gonna do this follow up, when we're gonna circle back to this, but make sure we save this very moment in time in this interview, because it will happen. But let me take it a step further now. So you said United States. We talked about you buying things all across the country. What does this look like internationally? Is that something that you've ever kind of thought about delving into? Is it a different game when you go internationally and we're speaking land here? What would that process
Yeah,
look like
see,
for you?
that would be interesting to get into it internationally. There's a number of hurdles, meaning the big hurdle is the data, the information. Like I mentioned, do everything from my computer screen. I can look up any parcel in the United States, get a ton of information about, know pretty much what that property is before sending out anyone on site, before doing any of that type of stuff. Other countries, it's different. You can't look up that. Sometimes the ownership information is not public, so it's tough to get to those people. Sometimes you just can't get that data. These apps and things are just not available for a particular country. And sometimes a lot of the countries are pretty archaic in the way that they do their paperwork and their processes and things. So it could take a year to close a property, purchase and or sale in some of these areas. And it's just, for land flipping, that would just be kind of tough. But I would love to do it in different areas as well. But I think some of these areas are not quite where they need to be as far as that side of things. So the United States is pretty easy. No matter what state you go into, they all have their different processes, but they're similar in a way. So
Okay, yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense. I kind of had that in the back of my mind, but I needed you to confirm that for me. So no, there we go. Okay, now you use the word hurdles there, and obviously that comes with anything, just in life, just with work, personal, family, 9 to 5, business ownership, entrepreneurship, everything like that. So, and I know that with you, even before stepping into land flipping, there were hurdles just being in real estate. There were hurdles just in life. There were hurdles with the market crash, just being in Cali, everything of the sort. What are some common mistakes when it comes to land flipping for some people who may just be getting involved, even when you even think about maybe you first starting, and had you not had that burst of real estate experience in general, you maybe have ended up somewhere totally different had you not just known certain things or new terminology or had people around you. So when you kind of notice people or are talking to people or just have been in this industry now for years, have you noticed any commonalities? Have you noticed these are things that people are doing or just things to avoid for people even thinking about? Because I kind of asked this question too for, I know we're going to have some people that after this interview, they're going to want to get into that, whether they reach out to you to pick your brain and do things, whether they start going down that rabbit hole like you did, or whether they just, have their own connect and find their own thing. Are there things to avoid? Are there things that you should stay away from? Is there even any advice that you could offer for people for just starting out or just
Yeah,
getting into
yeah,
this
great
from the
question.
beginning?
The big thing is you really need to learn how to evaluate properties. You need to learn what's a good piece of land, what's a bad piece of land, what are the different characteristics you want to look at to kind of determine, hey, is this something I should move forward with, or is this something I should just kind of stay away from? Uh, and with that comes the valuation part of it too. You need to be able to figure out like what this property is going to be worth when I put it on the market, and then back off from there. Like what would I have to buy this property for in order to make this an actual deal, not just a property you're buying at market value, which is easy to do, obviously. So that's kind of the big thing. So you need to put some time and dedication into figuring out how to evaluate these properties for this business model. And it's honestly not rocket science, but there's some really specific things that you need to kind of really dig into. And it's like anything else. When you're learning something, you're doing something new, it's going to seem weird at first. You're going to feel like, oh, I don't, I'm not getting this, or this is hard, or whatever the case may be. But once you get past that stage of kind of feeling awkward about it, and you're really digging in, you'll get it. You'll understand how things work. And when you get to that point, then you start. Then it starts really becoming a possibility, because once you get that skill of being able to evaluate these properties, or even tap into a group of people that have that skill that you can bounce these properties off of, these potential deals off of, and you can learn from them as they've got that knowledge, then things really start to open up. The other thing that's really important that I see people kind of fail at in this business is they're really inconsistent with their lead generation. And for us, lead generation is sending out the mail. So you'll get people that'll send out a batch of mail. They'll get busy. The phone will ring. They'll start evaluating all these potential deals and things, and then they'll just get busy, and they won't realize that they've got to keep that mail going at a regular pace, or the leads are going to stop. So they'll stop. They'll start getting like slow again, and then they'll think, oh no, I gotta send out some more mail. And then it takes them a couple of weeks to put it together, and then they send it out, and it takes another few weeks in order to start really getting momentum with the calls coming in. So they're constantly on this roller coaster. But it's interesting because it's one of the easiest things to take care of. If you're just like consistent about sending out a certain number of pieces of mail every couple of weeks or something, so many problems get resolved just by doing that one simple thing. And it's interesting to me because that I see that so often that people just don't, either they don't realize it or they don't care about it or something, but taking care of that one thing takes care of so many potential problems. So if you want a real business that's actually going to start growing over time, you need to be ultra consistent with that stuff.
We see the roller coaster time and time again, and I feel like even what you said, like I think that can apply to life. Sometimes we hit something run, we hit something, whether it just be because a fire was lit under us, or we were motivated, or we were just feeling it, or maybe we were being held accountable, maybe some money was involved, anything of the sort. And then we get maybe that satisfaction or the results that we were looking for, or we get busy, like you said, or we get occupied with time, or whatever the case may be. And then things start to slow down a little bit, or you get some free time, or you reap those benefits, whatever that looks like for you. And then eventually, it becomes a time where now you're looking again, or you're getting bored, or it's just like, wow, what's going on? Or you're feeling like the success is kind of dimming down. So I think you make a great point in really just keeping a consistent, not only attitude, but a consistent just work ethic. Even when you have the phone calls coming in, get that mail reorganized. Send it. I'm not saying to get it all reorganized and just blast it out, but no, get it all reorganized so that when you feel that you have that one free moment, or you feel things starting to slow down, or no, you have that mail ready to be sent on out. So instead of having to wait now another 2 weeks to get it generated, and then to get it sent out, and then to wait on the replies, you just save almost a month, if not more than a month, and you can send it right on out there. So no, I think having, and I think that for anybody, obviously, we're not just speaking land flipping here. I even can take some of that with the podcast, because there are some times, there used to be a time where I was sitting on I was waiting for interviews to happen. Like, it could be Tuesday and I don't have any content, but I have an interview Thursday and I'm waiting on that. But no, now it could be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It could be any day of the week. I have content I can drop whenever I want. But it took me, having to schedule. Even when I'm not, even when I feel like I'm booked and busy, still accepting interviews, still scheduling, just making sure, that fit for me. Even with the content, scheduling things, making sure I had stuff edited already, ready to go, and not just, scrambling or trying to find stuff. So no, that's really ultimately a great point. So put you on the spot a little bit. The best deal that you have had and been a part of, what was it, and why was it your best deal?
Okay. Well, let's see. The best one I think I did was this is a very large property. This is a property that was 650 acres. Yeah, in the South, and ended up getting it under contract for a really pretty good price per acre and everything. I think the price was 315,000. Now, this is not my typical deal. This is the biggest property I ever did. So most of the properties are about 20, 30,000, 50,000, somewhere around that range. But so this one, $315,000 purchase price. And the interesting thing about it was I didn't even have to spend any of my own money to actually buy it. In this business, there are people that are just kind of waiting for you to bring deals, and they will partner with you. So they'll be your deal partners. And what that means is that there are other investors, they understand land and everything. So in this case, and in other cases, this happens as well. They'll actually send the money to close the deal, all of it, 315,000. But then we split the deal. So when the property resells, which it did, in this case, it sold 4 or 5 months later, sold for 595, and then after commissions and things like that, we ended up splitting the profits on it. I didn't put any money into the deal at all, like zero, and we ended up splitting, 100 something thousand dollars each. So yeah, so that was my favorite deal. Yeah,
Well, that would be my favorite deal too. I love to hear that, but I think that even goes to show too that, the possibilities can really be endless with this. Like you said, when you even having just that range or that preference, that 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, you can get something that comes across the table that, if you haven't been doing your due diligence, or if you're just so gung ho to hop on that opportunity, you could mess that up for yourself. A lot of times, they, we often hear that scared money doesn't make any money, which I definitely agree with. But there can be a time where sometimes you're a little just too overzealous or too awkward, or sometimes that 315, that price point looks amazing to you. But yeah, but in order to get that 315 to 595, you had to put in some work. You had to do some things. Granted, you
yeah,
didn't have
yeah,
to put up any money. That's always a great, that's always just a great part. But you still had to do a lot of, you still had to know what you were talking about. You still had to do your follow-ups. You still had to maintain a level of professionalism, make sure your team was on point, and then still be able to take care of all that, like you said, on the commission side, and then be able to split all that. So no, I think that, for as much of what you do and for as much as the benefits that you reap, you have to put in just that much more work, that behind the scenes. Like we said, we even talked about, you got into the breakdown of your team and what they do. Well, that 595 wouldn't be possible without that team being broken down, without that team being strategically and specifically placed how they were to do what they do. So no, I get that. So before we get into where people can pick your brain, where people can tap into you, because I feel like, you said a lot of numbers today. People are going to be, eyes are wide. Now people are looking and listening, and, they even hear some new terminology, some new things, and they want to kind of, figure out what's going on with you. So before we get into that and where they can find you, Do you feel like there's anything we have not touched on today, or even any last words that you want to leave for people out there, whether it be land flipping related, business ownership, entrepreneurship, whether it just be even life related, anything that you want to leave for our audience, your
Yeah,
audience, just the
let's
same out
see. As
there?
far as land flipping goes, I mean, I think we kind of got the concept down. I believe as far as how it all works and everything like that. But as far as other business and entrepreneurship type stuff, I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I haven't worked in a regular job since before I got married, which was in 2000 and well, we got married in 1999. So I guess right before then was the last job I had, which was out of college. And so, you know, with business and entrepreneurship and things like that, it's just a matter of, real before you dive into something, I think it's really important to kind of evaluate that opportunity, make sure it's a real and viable opportunity. Like what is the real upside, like it may sound like a certain business may sound interesting or something like that, but before you really dive in, it's really important to kind of evaluate that opportunity and think, well, okay, if I executed this perfectly, like what would I be making? What is the true success in this venture look like? And sometimes when you really evaluate that, you're like, okay, well, if I really nail it on this, I'm going to be making 50 grand a year, and you might think, well, that's all I need and that's all I want and that's great, and then that might be a great business for you. But if you're looking to become a millionaire, you probably don't want to focus on an opportunity like that. You want to look at an opportunity that maybe's got some more upside. So anyhow, that's just one little thing that and I was guilty of that before with different business ventures I did. I just didn't never thought about that when it sounds so obvious, but it's really such a big thing. So
Sometimes it's really hard to, you think that you're thinking bigger picture. You think that you're thinking even a step ahead or things like that. And sometimes you're really only scratching the surface. So I think, but being able to admit that, being able to see that, that just shows a lot of growth. That shows a lot of learning. And that shows with you how, no matter how much knowledge you're able to retain, no matter how many experiences you're able to have, how much money you're able to make, with that work ethic, is still going to remain, because you wouldn't be 3 years in about to set another goal with this without that work ethic. You wouldn't have this team around you, that because you got very specific with the roles and responsibilities when you broke that down. I was actually, not to say I wasn't paying attention to anything else, but I was really paying attention to that just to see, what really all goes into this. But all of this ultimately would not happen, and you wouldn't be sitting in front of me. You would not have even reached out to the podcast in the manner that you did, because look, y'all, when I tell y'all he sent me one of the most like energetic, like just great videos that I ever saw, like I enjoyed it. Y'all, I've been reached out to in a plethora of ways, but I will say this was definitely one of my favorites. So, but you don't, that doesn't all just happen overnight. It doesn't, neither does, being able to, like he
10
said,
million.
get to
Yeah,
that
10
10
million.
point. What did you say for this
Yeah.
year? You said 10.3 million?
Yeah,
10
that
million,
sounds
right? We're gonna
better.
make it
Maybe we'll go with
10.3 just because that came in my head. But you don't, absolutely. But you don't get to that without, just that consistency, just that recognizing that the trials and tribulations are here, but they don't last forever. So no, Pete, I definitely appreciate everything that you're doing, the knowledge that you imparted here today. But I'm wishing you nothing but the best. We spoke a lot of things today. Like we said, the 10 is coming, the 10.3 is coming. You're going to be the largest
Yep, off
you
market
said
land buyer in
off
the United
market
States. Yes.
land buyer. That's the United States. That's going to happen just the same. And the vision of what you have for the company and you being able to step away, but ultimately still impart that to others and still put people in position, it's going to happen just the same. So now, for everybody out there that's going to be tapping in, for everybody who's going to be coming across this interview in some form or fashion, what are the best places to reach you? What are the best places to kind of be able to, pick your brain, even if they want to find out about what you do, read some more information about you and just what you have going on with your team
Yeah,
and your
well,
business and
best place
everything?
to
Where can
get
they
a
do
hold
that?
of me or to find out what we're doing is to go to turningprofit.com. And that's the home base for the podcast that myself and my wife do, which is all about real estate investing, kind of with a heavy focus on land flipping, because that's obviously what we do. But on that site there specifically, obviously, we've got links to all of our podcast episodes. But on that site, what we do, I think, which is a little different, is each month we do a monthly income report and for our land flipping business. So that is basically everything that happens like business wise in our land flipping business that month, like how much revenue we took in, how much profit we took in. These are actual numbers, like no rounding off or anything like that. So actual revenue, actual profit, um, the each and every deal that we did that month, like what we bought it for, what we sold it for, how many days we held it for, notes about what happened on that particular property. So, as much insight as I could possibly give into this business and what kind of deals are out there and what kind of deals that can be done, I try to include in those reports. Also, I do a video along with that. So, we've got the video side and then we've got the written side. They're similar, but maybe the written side's got a little bit more insight. The other thing is, I just at the beginning of 2023 here, launched a land flipping community where, we've got people in this land flipping community that are brand new and interested in getting into land flipping themselves. I've also got a bunch of, experienced land flipping investors in that community already. They're doing over $1 million a year. And then I've got lots of deal funders and people like that looking to partner on all these deals, kind of like we talked about in that big property. Uh, so it's a community of people coming together, learning about how to do land flipping, learning about how to do this model. And so I'm excited to see where this whole community goes. And it's already a thriving community. And, we just started it not too long ago. So, and then as part of that community, I've got a free training program just launched, which, talks about it's everything that you need to know in order to flip land yourself. So, and it's free, and I'm not charging anything for it. And I'm doing that way because I know that my goal is to grow this community, and I know by growing this community, a lot of opportunities will come my way. Allow me to partner in deals with people and things like that. So, I'm not interested in making money from just selling a course, even though I know I could. It's just kind of a different way of doing things, I guess. So, I'll still benefit though.
I love that. It's all every benefit and every reward and
Right.
I guess pro doesn't always have to be monetary. So the fact that you're even thinking like that, the fact that the community is you started at the beginning of the year is thriving for a reason. Because of the value, because of the knowledge, because of the intention behind it, and because of the optimism. Like you said, we know just from this podcast episode alone, you could have a course. You could easily be promoting that, easily have that out there, easily be, having people having success from a testimony. You could go through that whole process. Absolutely. But why do that? When you could impart that, spread that, give that to everyone. And who knows how many more lives you would change. And who knows how many more people will say, hey, well, if it wasn't for you, Pete, and your course and turning profits and everything, I wouldn't be where I am. How about this? I just came across this deal. I would love for you to, you don't know what could. So like you said, the possibilities are endless. The sky, I used to really say the sky is the limit, but honestly, I got a new perspective. The sky is the floor. And that just really goes to show that, everything is just limitless about that. So no, Pete, a big thanks to you, a big thanks to the team over there and everything that you guys are doing. Like I said, I was very happy to connect with you, very quick turnaround time. And I really do appreciate that. And obviously, I'm keeping track of the journey now. We're going month by month. I'm going to be checking the numbers. I'm going to be making sure, because at that end of the year, when we check back in December, because I will be following up with you, we're going to have that 10.3 million, man. And I'm very excited to see every part of it. So to everybody out there who continuously taps in with us, to everybody out there on Pete's side who is tapping in with us, I appreciate y'all. We love y'all. This has been another episode of the Down to Business podcast here with Tamar Turner.